Chapter 12. The Four Divisions of Heaven and Earth. 9-5 Islands, King Sect. Within a large hall, Divine Mechanism Battalion Master Li Haoran was looking at a huge map with mountains and rivers, clearly visible at a glance. But Li Haoran kept looking at it over and over again as if it wasn't enough. Battalion Master, you've been looking at this map of the 9 and 5 islands for more than a month. My subordinate has sent people to probe the landforms of 100 years ago. Some changes in the mountains and rivers, a Divine Mechanism Battalion disciple respectfully said. Quickly present it, Li Haoran immediately said. Yes. Right at this moment, another Divine Mechanism Battalion disciple barged into the Great Hall. Battalion Master, news has come from the west of the island. The sea beast Wuxia has appeared again, and this time with a large number of sirens. It seems to be about to board the island. That Divine Mechanism Battalion disciple respectfully said. Oh, the Wuxia has appeared again, landing on the island. Li Haoran's expression was solemn. Yes, Wuxia appeared, and the sea to the west of the island was momentarily covered in dark clouds. Unrolling torrential rains rained down furiously with Wuxia's arrival. That Divine Mechanism Battalion disciple respectfully said. Li Haoran's eyes narrowed slightly. Wuxia still really doesn't know how to die. Humph. Battalion Master, the sea beasts are following their senses. Instead of calculating on the map, Battalion Master should refer to where the senses of the sea beasts are. It might be more convenient for Battalion Master to search for what he is looking for. That Divine Mechanism Battalion disciple respectfully said. Not bad. Li Haoran steeply narrowed his eyes. Inform the Divine Mechanism Battalion disciple that we are going to the west of the island. Immediately, Li Haoran commanded. Yes. 9-5 Island, west of the island, above the sea surface, rumble. In the sky, dark clouds covered the sky. Torrential rain rained down furiously, and the sea was filled with huge whistles for thousands of miles, and the aborigines on the seashore revealed a look of horror. The sea ships in the sea were all smashed by the waves. Slowly, from the sea emerged a huge dragon head turtle body. It is the ancient sea disaster in the past encountered under the. Around Wuxia stood a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Each size is not small. For Wuxia to open the way in general, 3,000 shrimp soldiers and crab generals in the front to open the way. Wuxia slowly approaching the shore. As Wuxia moved, the dark clouds in the sky were also advancing towards the island in general. Who? At once, the dark clouds advanced 1,000 miles away, and for a while, the land to the west of the island landed in a raging downpour. Wherever Wuxia went, the storm rained down. The siren has come ashore, run, the siren has come ashore. What a heavy rain, my crops, my crops. There were shouts all around, and along with the storm, Wuxia stepped ashore one step at a time. Ong, Boshimo gave a long roar to the sky. Clatter, 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 clatter. The rainstorm became more and more violent, and the dark clouds traveled thousands of miles again. In the land west of the island, countless places were covered by the torrential rain. A scene of apocalyptic appearance. Great Abundance Gang, Wicked Valley. After a night of violent battles, Guhai fought several thousand of them, and in the early morning, everything returned to calm. The crowd of villains crawled up in pain, with multiple fractures on their bodies. On the occasion of the early morning, one by one, they were correcting their bone positions, fractures, and slowly saving themselves. After a night of hell, everyone looked in the direction of the ancient sea with a chill in their hearts. That evil man was also sealed in his cultivation, and after fighting all night, there wasn't even a trace of true chi. As if it was a dream. How could there be such? Never only oneself to beat others, which has been beaten by others. The crowd of villains also hardened, froze, and did not shout anymore, but each returned to their positions, covering their wounds, looking in the direction of the ancient sea, looking at that villain of villains, that villain king. Some were in awe, some were helpless, but, more than anything else, they were unconvinced. Outside the Valley of the Wicked, a group of Dafeng disciples walked to the top of a mountain peak with a few large boxes and looked at the Wicked Man Valley below. "You guys are here. Rats again, huh?" One of the original guards laughed. "It's already good enough to give them rats. This group of evil people, who deserve to die, still want us to find food for them." The man carrying the box laughed. "Cast it down." The guards nodded. Clatter, 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 clatter. At that moment, several large boxes opened, and countless rats were instantly dropped from the sky, casting them throughout the Valley of Evil. The crowd of Dafeng disciples watched with interest every time they watched the villains snatch the rats. It was a very interesting thing to watch. But today, countless rats were thrown down. The Valley of the Wicked was a quiet peace. All the wicked people seemed to have suddenly become civilized. No one was forward and backward to snatch and fight again. Huh, are they preparing for a hunger strike? A rat catcher frowned. After a while, only then did he see the wicked people come out in 2s and 3s to pick up rats to eat. But this time, there was no more snatching. What's going on? It doesn't look right today. Has anything happened in the past 2 days? The rat catcher frowned. No war, but the latter part of last night. It seems like the sound of a brawl came from the night. Isn't that normal? Every once in a while, there's going to be a bit of chaos. It's all up to them. What are they afraid of? They can't run away anyway. Yes, they consume their own physical strength. When they die in the Colosseum, that's them looking for death. Usually they don't dare to fight chaotically. All right. It's not under my control anyway. The Dafeng disciples discussed and dispersed one after another. No one knew what happened last night. A group of evildoers suffered inhuman treatment. All evildoers hated the Great Abundance Gang. Naturally, it was impossible for them to snitch. Gu Hai simply ate a healing elixir and looked at the villains in the Valley of Villains. Chen Chonchun and Scar stood aside respectfully. After last night's battle, the two of them no longer had the slightest underestimation of Gu Hai. Inside the valley, the wicked people were picking up rat corpses in 2s and 3s, gnawing on them to replenish their strength amongst themselves, and one of them looked viciously in the direction of Gu Hai. A daytime that quickly passed. By the evening, Gu Hai craned his neck and slowly stood up. In the wicked valley, the wicked people had rested for a day, and the disobedient once again organized themselves, this time not attacking haphazardly, but began to surround Gu Hai in an organized manner. Yesterday was the first time, tonight is the second time. I'll give you one more chance, before dawn. If anyone disobeys again, there's only death. There was a cold light in Gu Hai's eyes. Go, go. A group of villains once again lunged towards Gu Hai. Boom, boom, boom. Like last night, once again a large-scale fight began. At the same time, outside the Evil Man Valley, a few guards were embracing a few demonic women, drinking wine while chatting about some inappropriate topics for children. There are screams inside again. Nothing will happen, right? A demonic woman asked, as she sat on the lap of one of the guards. Don't mind them, that group of evil people. As long as they don't escape, it's none of our business. The guard touched the demonic woman's thigh and said, You're bad. The demonic woman refused to return the favor. There were no words in the night, and they fought as much as they could until dawn. This time, Gu Hai completely defeated the group of evil people. Looking at the more than 3,000 villains kneeling on one knee, although Gu Hai's face was swollen, but, in his eyes, he was full of wariness. Greetings, my lord, the 3,000 or so villains respectfully said. I know, there are still some of you who are not convinced. I can see that, but it doesn't matter. These 2 nights, I beat you all up. It's to give you a reminder. Remember, for the next 20 years, I am your boss. After 20 years, you can stay if you want to. And if you don't want to, I'll let you go. But, in these 20 years, whoever dares to escape, I'll take your lives. Gu Hai glared at the 3,000 or so villains. The 3,000 or so villains looked up at Gu Hai, revealing a hint of doubt. Gu Hai's gaze traveled around all the villains and said in a deep voice, "Staying here is waiting for death. Eating dead rats, incompetently resenting your enemies, to be killed one day in the Colosseum, in front of your enemies, listening to your enemies' laughter, and swallowing your last breath. Is this the life you guys want to live? But what can we do?" A villain gritted his teeth. "I will find a way to take you guys out. Just serve me for 20 years. Do you still feel unconvinced?" Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "Get out. How to get out?" The crowd of villains stared at Gu Hai now. "Wanting to go out requires you all to listen to me. However, now isn't the best time, because there are still 2 more difficult problems waiting," Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "The sealed cultivation, the mask on the head. Sealing cultivation requires a powerful electric current, which is only found in the Colosseum. And I heard that the electric current of the Colosseum also needs to be stored every day." Scar spoke up. "No need to go to the Colosseum. I have a way to find the electric current. The most important thing right now is the mask," Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "Wow, really? You can unlock the seal?" The crowd immediately rejoiced. Gu Hai's face sank. The evil people who had just clamored stopped their voices at once. "All right, other don't talk nonsense. During the daytime, be quieter. Next, I'll give you pen and paper. Write out your names, abilities, specialties, and why you were captured, briefly for me. Each person is limited to 200 words. No more," Gu Hai said coldly. "Yes," the crowd of villains answered. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Gu Hai however took out a large number of pens and paper and handed them to the crowd of villains. 200 words, more than 3,000 people. That's hundreds of thousands of words, quickly handed over to Gu Hai. Gu Hai's mental arithmetic was extremely strong. In the evening, it had all been looked after, and quickly catalogued the wicked people. "In the future, you are my subordinates, divided into heaven, earth, Zhuanhuang for divisions, 900 people in each division, 1 Bai Chang for every 100 people, and 1 Shi Chang for every 10 people. I'll decide on the 100 chiefs, Shishangs. You can negotiate among yourselves. The 4 ministers, Minister of Heaven, Gao Xianzi, Minister of Earth, Chen Chongchen, Minister of Zhuan, Scar, Minister of Yellow, Shangwen Scar," Gu Hai commanded. "Yes," the villains answered. Gao Xianzi hadn't come back yet, but no one dared to say anything since he was esteemed as Minister Chon by Gu Hai. Chen Chongchen and Scar led 1 section each. Both of them were at the Jindan realm, yet they had that prestige. What Gu Hai valued was not the duo's ability. Having just integrated this group of villains, control was the most important, so Gu Hai was nepotistic for now. The last Shangwan trace. Gu Hai is also the first time to see this Shangwan trace earlier than the fight. Gu Hai did not have any impression. But this person is the lightest injury, the most important one. This person in the Evil Man Valley stayed for 30 years. The villains of the Evil Man Valley have long since changed several batches, however, he has survived until now. Shangwan trace, a middle-aged man in appearance. The scruff on his face looked rather haggard, but a pair of eyes were incomparably sharp. There was no information about himself in the resume. Shangwan trace had no introduction, only his name, and the fact that he had spent 30 years in the Evil Man Valley. Such a resume was enough for Gu Hai to get to know him. Gu Hai firmly believed that those who could survive were the best. As for the character and mentality, that could only be felt out slowly in the future, it was impossible to describe clearly with a single CV. The integration came to a moment when the sun went down. Boom! With a loud bang, the sky steeply darkened with clouds. Storm. How did a storm suddenly come? The crowd of villains looked up at the sky in surprise. Gu Hai, however, steeply narrowed his eyes. This scene made Guhai suddenly think of the sea disaster more than a month ago. The sudden change in the sky. Wasn't this the scene where the sea beasts were infested